you. It's a pleasure to be here today. And I actually study birds and mammals, and I have a specialty or a love for bats and hummingbirds, and I've done that for more than 25 years now. What I'm going to do, Joe wanted me to talk about the pollinators here, but we've only got 2 out of the 28 species of bats. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about all bats, and try to focus too on, let's see, do I have this? Okay. So just what I want to do is just give you a little information about bats, and they are mammals, and what makes a mammal a mammal. I mean, they have hair, fur, and they're warm-blooded, so they have that internal temperature, and then the females nurse their young with milk. Bats are in the order Chiroptera, which means hand wing, and there are more than 1,100 species of bats. And the reason there are so many bats is because they can fly, so they occur over a large area, almost everywhere except maybe the Arctic or Antarctica or some of the isolated islands. And they have true flight. When you think about things like lemurs or flying squirrels or something, they don't fly, they just kind of leap or glide. So these guys actually have true flight. If you're a vampire bat, you have the least amount of teeth, and we don't have any vampire bats here, but if you go over the border of Mexico and down into Mexico, Central and South America, there are 3 species of vampire bats. If you're an insectivorous bat, you have 38 teeth, and if you're a nectar bat, we've got 2 species, you have less than that. So because you're not eating hard shell insects and things like that. 28 species in Arizona, 26 eat insects, so they're insectivorous, and then we have 2 nectar pollinating bats. How they differ from birds, well, of course, birds are in the order Aves and Mammalia for bats, and most of your birds are diurnal, meaning that they're active during the day, but of course you've got exceptions like your owls and your nighthawks and goatsuckers and stuff, the birds that are active at night. And so that's why we have a lot of species, because they dominate the night, and they're nocturnal, so there can be a lot more species. They're not competing with all of the number of species of birds during the day. Of course, feathered fur, that's just common sense. Birds have hollow bones. Bats have marrow-filled bones, which make them light. If you fly, if you're a bird or a bat, you have to be light enough to be able to get off the ground, and so you have to have some kind of mechanism in your bones to be able to lighten up. Also, if you notice with bats, most of them have very, very short necks, and so they've lightened up their weight too, because and not only with the hollow bones, but with very short necks. Their heads just kind of sit on their body. That guy's kind of stretching out his neck. But and then the wing of the bat, very different from birds. It's actually a hand, and so this would be the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm. What would that be sticking out right there? Yeah, that's a thumb, and then you have all the finger bone. Whoop! Didn't mean to do that. Okay, let's go back there. Sorry. Okay, so you have maybe I should use my laser, that's too close to. So if you look at the finger bones there, they're elongated to give support to the wing, and very strong. So the hand is actually the wing. This membrane here, as far as for the wing for the bat, is living tissue. And I do a lot of work out in the field. As a matter of fact, next weekend, thank goodness I'm not out this weekend, I'll be in the Chiricahuas next weekend capturing bats. And I capture a lot of bats that will have holes in the wings. Since it's living tissue, it heals. And they might snag it on a tree or a branch, or maybe in the roots or something like that. Vision and echolocation, your birds of prey have exceptional vision, and you know, some birds of prey have vision that's 8 times better than what we have. And bats, especially the insectivorous bats, are using echolocation, which is a form of sonar. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. The two primary ways that bats differ from other mammals are in wings that bats use to fly, and then also the echolocation. And echolocation is very sophisticated. I could do a whole lecture just about echolocation. But it's a very sophisticated sonar, and it's far more sophisticated than anything that we have with any of our technology. But insectivorous bats are actually seeing with their ears. They're producing these sounds, and then the sounds bounce off or whatever it hits, and it comes back to the bat as an echo, and they get all this information about it. I'm doing a lot more with acoustics now. I like to put up nets and catch bats because you can see what kind of physical condition they're in, if they're a male or female, if they're pregnant or they're lactating or something like that. With acoustics, which is this part down here, it's good to use if you can't get your hands on the bats. Let's say there's not a water source. Bats like to fly across water sources. If there's not a water source, then you can set up all your acoustic equipment, and it tells you presence, that a certain species is there. And I've done that here at Tohono Chul Park at night, and I'm going to be doing some more of that too. So basically these guys emit these pulses, the insectivorous bats, and they go out and hit an object, whether it be an insect or an obstacle, and come back to the bats. Bats have all kinds of adaptations in their brain and little maps of what's going on out there, but this is all happening very, very quickly, and I won't dwell on that. But the two nectar bats that we have here, most of your fruit bats, nectar bats, don't use echolocation, but the two species that we have here do use echolocation, and what they use it for is to actually find the plant, and then once they find the plant, they turn off the echolocation. I've done lots and lots of field work with night vision goggles and sat there and watched it, and I always turned on my bat detector because you sit out there all night and nothing's going on, you fall asleep. But if you have a bat detector, it alerts you that a bat is coming in, so they're definitely using their echolocation to find the plant. And then once they turn it off, they use their eyes and sense of smell to feed on, whether it be an agave or saguaro or cardone, something like that. The bat down in the corner here is a lesser long-nosed bat, and out of the two nectar pollen-feeding bats that we have here, one of them is endangered. It's the only endangered bat that we have in the state, and it does occur here in the summer. They usually show up maybe late April, May. The females come up from Mexico, and they have their young in northern Sonora, and then they also come into Arizona. There are some maternity roosts, and I'm actually monitoring one, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But they don't spend the winter here. And why wouldn't the nectar bats hang around? I mean, we do have bats 12 months out of the year, insectivorous, but why wouldn't a nectar bat want to hang around in the winter here? Yeah, there's not a lot of food for them. And when you stop and think about the food that they're feeding on, which, let's say agaves, and I was monitoring agaves last summer, and I'm going to do that this summer too, because I'd love to be able to tell Tohono Chul that there are nectar bats feeding on the agaves here, but yeah, they're not available in the winter, and these guys have to feed on something. But the cool thing about it is there is another species of nectar bat, the Mexican long-tongue bat, that actually does hang around here in the winter, which is cool. You've got your lesser long-nosed bat going back down into Mexico for the winter, but your Mexican long-tongue will hang around here, which is pretty cool when you think about it. And what are they using in the winter if they can't find any nectar food? Hummingbird feeders. And not only do they use it in the summer, but they use it in the winter too. And so it's pretty cool that one of our nectar bats at least hangs around here. The other one sure doesn't. It goes to Mexico. Okay, for the insectivorous bats, of course, they're going to be eating arthropods, all kinds of insects. And if you're a pallid bat, like this bat down here in the corner here, you're mainly on the ground, and this bat specializes on scorpions and centipedes and millipedes. Whereas most of your bats are eating insects that are aerial, and they're chasing them around. There are other bat species that feed on other things besides pollen and nectar and fruit and insects and arthropods. And down in Panama, there's a frog-eating bat, and he just specializes on frogs. And actually,